Today, while coming to the BIC, there was a traffic jam in my neighborhood, and it was a procession for the goddess Mariamman. And that pleased me a lot because processions in Bangalore in India are great fun. But this one is because Mariamman temples in my area, which is Alsur and Shivaji Nagar, were built during the plague of 1898. And I learned that while researching the book. I live in Alsur near Shivaji Nagar, which itself has an interesting history because previously it was called Black Palli. So when you hear a name like that, you try to understand why it is called that. Udaya is a historian, so I'm going to say this with caution, but apparently it was called Black Palli. The legend was it was called Biliyaki Palli, which is white rice place, Palli. Historian S.K. Aruni posits that it was named after John Blackiston, who was the founder of the cantonment. And there is a Black Palli also in Chennai, Black Town. So the other theory is that it was named by the colonial British because of the Blackies, the natives. So, all of this is great stuff to put in a travel story on Shivaji Nagar. But it's not enough, which brings me to the question, how do you write a travel story about a city that you call your home? So recently I was listening to a podcast from the Harvard Business Review, and they have a set of 3 questions that they use to process ideas. And I thought that was quite interesting. And the 3 questions are what, so what, and then what. That can apply for many things. What is the idea? So what, who cares, and then what, which is what is the story about. So in that, what is the easy part? When you're a travel writer, the assumption is you'll go somewhere, you'll see some things, and then you'll come back and you'll write about it. But that's not enough, because when you send such a pitch to an editor, wherever they are, whether my editors sit in Bombay and New York, when you send a pitch for a travel story, which is about a paragraph, and write, you know what, I live in Shivaji Nagar, there's this thing happening, this name is very interesting and all that. Then the next question is, so what, which is, why should my reader care? So what I learned very early in my travel writing forays is that the what is less important, the so what is actually the more important thing. So simply saying Shivaji Nagar used to be called Black Palli is not enough. The next question is, why is it relevant to the readers? Why am I the best person to tell the story? What is new and timely about this information? So the last bit, what is new and timely about this information, is very hard to come up with. Paul Theroux once said, he's a travel writer, British travel, he said that the best travel narratives describes the miseries and the splendors of the quest. So, which is to say that the journey is the reward, or the journey, the process of journeying and the self-transformation that it creates makes the story important. And as somebody who avidly follows social media, including a fellow panelist who you'll see today, Kunal, who's very good at it, as a writer and somebody who loves Instagram, what is fun is that social media is very bad at nuance. You cannot compress time, you cannot do the interior monologue, or you cannot do the interiorization that is so important to writing in social media. So for example, you can show transformation. Most YouTube videos or Instagram posts, they show transformation. Oh, I lifted weights and then time-lapse video and look where I am. Or, oh, I did meditation for 1 month and look where I am. So the transformation is there. The travel stories are also fairly vertical in that, oh, I went here, this is what I saw, and this is why you should go to. But combining the travel and the self-transformation is very hard to do in a 90-minute reel or any of the social media outlets that all of us enjoy. So for example, I learned about the Mulbagal Dosai from Kunal, and I hadn't heard about the place or that particular type of dosai. Now, it is very hard to do a story on Mulbagal Dosai in the way that I would write a travel story, which would be, I want to bond with my daughters who have returned from college, and we've been arguing over the internet, but this is going to be a mother bonding and daughter bonding story. So we take a trip to Mulbagil, we eat the dosa, we learn about the place and the food, and then we come back and I tell them stories about the family and I learn about their lives. So this is the kind of story that I wrote actually for Condé Nast Traveler in the US about a trip to Costa Rica. But to do this in a short film is very hard to do. So that is what differentiates travel writing or travel writing books from the TikTok or anything else. India has a rich history of travel writing. We all read about, if you look at Western travel writing, the first travel writer wrote about Greece according to, if you use the Western lens. But in India, perhaps the first travel story was the Meghaduta, which was written by Kalidasa in the 4th and the 5th centuries, 4th or 5th centuries. It is about a yaksha who was banished to central India, and then he's pining for his wife who lives in the Himalayas. So he calls a cloud a Megha and says, please carry my love message to my wife in the Himalayas, and this is why you should do it. And then he proceeds to describe the scenes that the cloud will see along the way, and created a whole range of Sandesha Kavyas, which including by Uddhanda Shastri of South India. So there were about 40 Sandesha Kavyas that came from Kerala, all following the same format. Some lovers are separated, pining for the lovers, calling different nature forms, sending messages. So that is one form of travel writing. The scholar Supriya Chowdhury talks about in an article, which is available on academia.edu, for example, that pilgrimage, trade, and conquest were the reasons for early Indian travel writing. So in Hindu Puranas, we have the Kashi Purana, Kashi Mahatmya Purana. Every South Indian, I don't know North India as well, but South Indian temples have Sthala Puranas, which are stories about a place. They are literally travel narratives about what is so great about this place. Hajj narratives, where the people visited Makkah and wrote about it. And interestingly, from India, the Begums of Bhopal wrote the Hajj narratives about how they were transformed by the journey of going to Makkah. Then Babarnama, which is written by the conqueror, the conquest. He comes in, and in one version of Turkey, he wrote about the flora, the fauna, the culture of the land that he conquered. Then you have trade. We've all read in school books, certainly I did, about Faxian. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing it right. Then there was Ibn Battuta from Morocco. There was Tavernier, the French merchant who came and wrote about the fabulous jewelry of India. So there you have trade, which became a source of travel writing. But you don't have to go to faraway lands to write a travel book. Jawaharlal Nehru's Discovery of India was written when he was in jail. And he wrote about discovering India for a general audience. He wrote about the Vedas and everything. Swami Vivekananda traveled and wrote about the philosophies and the self-transformation that he went through. There's a social anthropologist, Airavati Karve, in 1962. She wrote a fantastic memoir called On the Road, in which, if you read it, it's really lyrically written about being on the road in Maharashtra and the sights and the sounds that you will see. So that is from Puranic times to the middle period. And then the recent travel memoirs, all of us know the names, Pico Iyer. You have Pankaj Mishra's Butter Chicken in Ludhiana. You have William Dalrymple's City of Gins about Delhi. You have Suketu Mehta's Maximum City about Mumbai. You have Mr. Subbaya's Stories of Madras, many volumes. And then Kolkata is more, Amit Chaudhary, Jhumpa Lahiri is more of the fictional side. So Bangalore, to my view, is now experiencing, and it's not, okay, my book is one, but there are many. There are fellow writers like Udaya Kumar, who has written a fictionalized book on Bangalore. There is Zach Oya, who has written about Mr. Majestic. So there's both fiction and non-fiction. There is a book, if you go to Blossoms, the middle aisle is full of books on Bangalore. So in my view, cultural renaissance in terms of literature is happening in Bangalore. It has always happened, but now there's suddenly a lot of books on Bangalore. So an average travel book like the city of, I mean, not an average, I should say, a travel book like the City of Gins or Maximum City has a format. So a young man and their family go settle in a new city. They establish rental house, apartment, arrange for nariyal pani, everything. And then they begin exploring certain aspects of the city. It is, in City of Gins, it's about the Gins. It's about old Delhi. In Maximum City, which is Suketu Mehta's ode to Mumbai, it is about Bollywood and also the call girls. So if any of you in the audience are planning to write a book on Bangalore, all of this should give us hope, because nobody can cover all aspects of the city in one book. It is usually a lens through which one writer views the city, because your Bangalore will be different from mine. So my editor came up with this title, Namma Bangalore, and I've got a lot of questions about why are you calling it Namma Bangalore and not Namma Bengaluru. I actually, frankly, was pushing for that. I like Namma Bengaluru. And he sits in Delhi and he said, Shoba, if anybody searches on Amazon, do you think they're going to search for Bengaluru books or Bangalore books? And I had to agree that they would search probably for Bangalore books. So Namma Bangalore is a compromise. But Ninna Bangalore or your Bangalore is different from in Nanna Bangalore. So that way, so many books about this city can be written. So how do you write a travel book? You focus it by time, by location, or topic. So Raga and Josh, which is a fantastic book by Sheila Dar, uses the topic of music to travel into the Kayasth communities and Hindustani music. So if our panelist MD Pallavi, who's you listen to, were to write a book, and she should, about the music of Karnataka, this is one way. It would be a book on music and also a travel book, because she has traveled throughout the world, of course, but also throughout Karnataka, which is another point. You know, you can't write a book about the whole world, even if you've traveled the whole world. You have to distill it to one region, which for Pallavi would be Karnataka. And in fact, you should be more specific about certain aspects of music in Karnataka. The other approach would be location, which would be an approach that another panelist, Kunal Bysani, may follow, if he chooses to write a book on Bangalore, because he is a food expert. So you choose a location, which for him happens to be Bangalore is his playground. You choose a topic, which for him is food, and then you can write about food in Bangalore. That is a book. And Kunal could even distill it further to street foods of Bangalore. That itself is a book. Udaya is a historian, and for him, the travel could be plumbing through time. So he was generous to spend about half a day with me at the Begur Panchalingeshwara temple. And to just use that temple as a way to travel through time comes naturally to him. So you can do time, location, topic. There's another approach to travel writing, which is what S. Muthiah uses in his Madras books, which is the survey approach. He will say, I'm going to write about the history, the geography, the culture, the characters, so a bit of everything. In my mind, even though I admire Mr. Muthiah, the survey approach is not the best approach for a travel book. Monisha Rajesh uses a survey approach in in my view, a better way, which is that she has written a book called Around India in 80 Trains. Now, that's clearly a play on Around the World in 80 Days, but it's, to me, what a great idea to go through 80 trains in India. So already you're distilling it by approach, which is train journeys, and then you're using India as a canvas. Most editors of travel articles use one word, which is a very difficult word for me to cross over. They use the word prism. So when I send a paragraph, which is what you do when you pitch an editor, when I send a paragraph about an idea, they will reply with one line. So what is the prism? Which means, how are you approaching this idea? And so the prism should be personal. It should be a point of view. It should be an approach. But then after that, you do the zoom in and the zoom out. And you do this in pretty much every paragraph. So one paragraph, you start with the zoom in, and you start with the anecdote, and then you zoom out, and then you zoom in again. And a good way to approach this prism is to ask a question, which is what I've done in many chapters of the book. Which is a better masala dosa, the Tamil Nadu one or the Karnataka one? For that, I got so much feedback, because everybody has a point of view. And to me, for this book anyway, it was the compelling question, by which I mean it got a lot of response. The last type of travel writing, which applies to also good social media posts, is making it user-friendly. And that is the approach that today most Indian travel outlets are following. So if you go to Condé Nast Traveler, the Indian one, It'll be which are the best breweries of Bangalore, the best resort in Lonavala, the best, all these are listicles as they call it. 52 walks outside Bangalore, which is actually a good book by Outlook Traveler. So making it user-friendly for visitors so that when they come to Bangalore on day 1 and then on day 2 they say, okay, Mysore ge hogana. They don't need to go to Mysore in order to get the culture. So that is, I've written a chapter called 36 Things to Do in Bangalore, and that is the user-friendly approach. I want to end with a question, which is, I've been thinking about, when will a Kannadiga character appear in a mainstream Bollywood film? You know, I saw Rocky and Rani, and of course we all know Bollywood is full Punjabi because for a long time they were the producers, they were the directors, so they have the history of Punjabi characters, Punjabi stories. Recently, though, after Devdas, a lot of Bengali characters have started making their way into mainstream Bollywood movies. Chennai Express even had Deepika playing a Tamilian character. So when will a Kannada character come? To which, of course, when I was posing this question, to which the answer was, do you really want Bollywood to caricature a Kannada character? That is a separate discussion, whether or not you choose. But why is a Kannadiga character not rising up to the national consciousness as far as Bollywood is going? So maybe I'll ask my panelists that at the end. And my theory for that is that Bangalore and Karnataka are accepting and genteel people. We don't, from a branding perspective, you need maybe 1 or 2 adjectives in order to coalesce as a city or a state. So you have, quote unquote, the intellectual Bengalis, you have the flashy Punjabis. What is the Kannada adjective? If you had to pick one, what would we pick? And how would we portray that? So I'm still thinking about that. I don't have an answer. But I want to move to the next stage, which is a discussion of 3 fabulous panelists. You would have seen their bios, and Lekha has introduced them, and I would like to invite them on stage. MD Pallavi has popularized Kannada folk songs with her angelic voice. Please come on stage, Pallavi. Kunal Bysani, with the fab Insta handle of Gadot Gaja, shows his 140,000 followers on Instagram where and how to eat. Please come on stage, Kunal. PL Udaya Kumar can turn your idea of Bangalore upside down thanks to his deep and vast knowledge of history, specifically the inscription stones of Bangalore. So I'm going to sit down and discuss for 40 minutes, after which we will all take questions. Come. So just check your mics. Check. Can you hear everybody? Okay. So we talked about it a little bit before, so we'll do the ladies first and then we'll go back and like that. So, Pallavi, thank you for being here. You have sung all over the world, but tell us about audiences and music in Karnataka, specifically from a cultural anthropologist perspective. How are we different? How are the audiences that you sing for different? What resonates with them? What themes resonate with them? Those kind of.
Thank you so much for having me here. Okay, so first let me start with Karnataka and then I'll talk about Bangalore. I've performed across Karnataka. I sing something called Sugama Sangeetha, which is poetry, Kannada poetry. And Karnataka is, I guess, like any other state in India. Every 150, 200 kilometers, you find a new dialect. You find different, a different kind of, people, and slightly different in the way that they, respond to art and their culture and everything, and their food and everything. So it is really I have had some of the most wonderful experiences traveling across Karnataka and performing. The one commonality, I would say, in performing anywhere in Karnataka is that The people are lovely. There's so much hospitality, such warmth, always. I'll give you one or two examples of, my concerts in Karnataka, just one or two. I have had hundreds of these experiences. Around Sankranti, there is a big jatre that happens in North Karnataka. And this jatre is organized by farmers around that place. So farmers from around 20 or 25 villages get together. They travel from their villages in their bullock carts and their tractors, whatever vehicles they can bring. They bring their produce and they have like a 3-day jatre. And they put in all the produce and they cook for each other. They organize a music festival, dance, music, theater, whatever they want to watch. And once I had performed there, and I had only heard from my co-musicians and friends about the scale of this, jatre. You will not believe it. There were, the venue of the concert was a hill surrounded by many hills. So I was on top, the stage was on top of a hill, and that hill was covered with people sitting on it. And around there were many hills, and it was covered with people. So there were around 6 to 7 lakhs people there. And they took me to the place where the food was being cooked, the community kitchen. And there were rooms stacked with rotis. And rooms stacked with vegetables and palyas, and the sambar was being made in almost a big handi as big as this stage, I guess. So that is how it was. They cooked for each other. They slept under the sky, and they had this 3-day jatre, and they went back. This I can't ever explain what a feeling it was to sing and to see just an endless number of people listening to your music, but also how safe it was, how warm and welcoming and hospitable each person there was. There was not a single bad moment, not for me, not for anybody I've ever heard about it. So this is one experience, this Sankranti festival that happens. There's one more experience. Once I was performing in somewhere in Hornadu. And the thing about Karnataka is wherever you perform, they are so used to sitting all night that you can just perform for hours and hours and people will not go. The only difference, I guess, between audiences of Bangalore and audiences outside Bangalore is that they do not have a deadline. They do not have an Uber to catch, nor do they have to go back home to, it's a weekday or a weeknight, nothing. They will stay all night if you perform, and they'll go back in the morning and get on with their work. So this festival, I was there, and it was an open air festival, and I was singing, and there were about 3,000 people in the audience, and suddenly it started pouring, and we had to stop the concert because our instruments were getting wet. And they said, no, please continue. And we said, we can't because our instruments are getting wet. And they said, we'll do something. And they asked the people to sit. So everybody was sitting in the rain and waiting. And they brought these tarpaulins of, vehicle tarpaulins that you cover the vehicles in. And about 25 people held these tarpaulins above us while we sat under it and performed for 3 hours. They all sat in the rain. These people stood in the rain and held these tarpaulins for us, and we just performed for 2.5 to 3 hours. This is it's not even possible to expect this. I don't know. How do you explain this? This is the kind of love they have towards, art and music and everything. About Bangalore specifically, I should say, the Bangalore that I know is very much the Bangalore that I grew up in was South Bangalore, Baswangudi, Banshankari, around that area. But after I've started performing and all that, I've experienced Bangalore in pockets, and that is how I really enjoy it. Also, South Bangalore, you have your sabhas, you have the Fort High School where Ram Seva Mandali, which is run by these two Muslim brothers. And you have, a mix of Carnatic and Hindustani in South Bangalore. If you go towards the cantonment area, you have musicians who are, who have done jazz and pop and rock musicians. Bangalore is like has one of the best rock bands, some of the best rock bands in the country. Then Rajajinagar, most of the Hindustani musicians live there, and there are so many sabhas where you have like all-night music concerts happening. Malleshwaram, of course, is Carnatic music. Then there are so many indie music bands inside Bangalore that have made their name across India. So Bangalore is like I would say, it's like a melting pot, and you can find every kind of music in Bangalore.
Thank you. Uday, from spending a day with you, I took away one conclusion, which is that everything that we think of in Bangalore is as old as new and vice versa. Can you explain for us? That is all ulta.
Okay. So, there is this perception of Bangalore as old and new, while we don't call it so explicitly as in Delhi, old city, new city here. The perception is that the Pete area, which is the Chikpete, Balepete and all that, is the old city. And the new happening places, Whitefield, Electronic City, these are the new happening places, right? Yeah, this has been the belief for quite some time. And this is also basically because of movement. Bangalore, unlike some of the other cities, about half the population of the city is migrant population. People have come in here in recent times, and it's going to go on, has been happening, will go on. So that's the label or the tag. So generally they're also kind of distinct in that, people don't cross over. People in Whitefield would rarely, in fact the joke is, and I worked 30 years there despite not living there, you need a visa to come into Bangalore. Okay. So that's the kind of language as well. But if you think about it, the core of the city, which is the Chikpete, Balepete and all of this, is probably the newer portions of the city, in the sense they're about 400, 500 years only. They're not much older than that. Right?
That's old.
Yeah, it's not old at all. So let's look at the place we are in today. For example, let's say Indiranagar, Domlur Indiranagar area. People would tend to think, the Indiranagar happened in the, 70s, 80s, 90s. It didn't exist before that. You had to get off at Alsur, then walk all the way to Indiranagar is the standard narration. Guess what? Walking distance from here, in a temple, the name Binnamangala is written. Binnamangala is actually the old name for Indiranagar. There is a Binnamangala inside Indiranagar even today. The Spastic Society area is Binnamangala village. And that's 800 years old.
800.
Yeah. So we kind of dropped that reference. By the way, the locality of Indiranagar is actually designed around the village of Binnamangala. So if you were to have a issue with your land and go to the courts today, the corporation would issue a certificate saying, Binnamangala, survey number 1, and that's where you would start from. So we have forgotten that, and we kind of end up thinking Indiranagar happened in the 80s. No, it didn't. It happened 800 years ago at least. So if someone asked me, are you from the newer and the upcoming localities of Bangalore, I would say no way. And someone was talking about Koramangala here. I think, Indiranagar has been displaced now. So the new happening place is Koramangala, or at least, whatever they are. Guess what? Koramangala is at least 1100 years old. By that same name. I'm not even changing anything here. So the Koramangala village is mentioned in an inscription which is hanging in Bangalore Museum there. And there's 12 localities that feature in that particular inscription. So Koramangala is not new. It's been there for 1100 years at least. But Koramangalites would probably, or whatever they refer to themselves as, would say, the old city. They are in an older part of the city than they could imagine as well. It's a story for Whitefield as well. Okay, Patandur, In fact, they named the metro very beautifully now. They use the old names instead of the newer names there. Okay. ITPL is just come about a few decades back, but that region, Pattandur, is at least 1100 years old. Kadgodi is that old. Okay. All the region that we are talking about there, Kerpuram, is even older than that. So the entire, because we add new labels to these, the layouts and the nagars are more frequently used. We end up thinking that, the older portion of Bangalore and the younger portion of Bangalore, it's like exactly the opposite. Yeah. So Begur that you referred to is actually Electronic City. Electronic City is a new locality for Bangalore. It's in the outskirts, far away, all of that. In fact, the first mention of Bengaluru is in an inscription in Begur. So, they ought to feel a lot more closer to Bengaluru than, anyone living in Chickpete, Balepete today.
That's great, yeah. And if you're lucky, Uday will take you to Begur Panchalingeshwara temple and show you these inscriptions, or you should just go by yourself, yeah. Kunal, you took me on a fantastic walk in Tindi Bidi where you not only talked about the food, but he also knew all the vendors and their life stories. Can you talk about and you also told me about all the old places in my area, which is the Sambaya Setti Tiffin Room and stuff. Can you give us an overview of the neighborhoods that you like from a food perspective?
So everyone assumes, I'm sorry Shoba, so I'm not a public speaker first of all. I talk behind the camera as a voice artist, as a voiceover artist, and yeah, if I go wrong somewhere, I please apologize. And first of all, thank you for having me here, and including my name in the book and quoting me in several places. It's really an honor. And yes, so first of all, about the localities in Bangalore. We all assume Shivaji Nagar has only meat, but Shivaji Nagar has traders. I don't know how correct I am, Uday sir. So for me, Shivaji Nagar, 100 years ago at least, traders from northern Tamil Nadu, southern Andhra Pradesh, the Arya Vaishya community had settled there. And that is where, settled there. And from there, we find many eateries. For example, I do a pure vegetarian breakfast walk in Shivaji Nagar. So that is where we start from Sambai. That is where we have our Sambai Setti Sambai Setti Tiffin Room, where you find pulav and vadakari, which is not the vadakari you taste in Chennai, but it is a vadakari of Bangalore, of Shivaji Nagar, not exactly Bangalore. So you taste your vadakari and you have your pulav, which is very mild in flavor because it is made in coconut milk. And then you come forward, you have Shri Idli Corner, but his Shri Idli Corner is open in the evening. There is Sai Ram Tiffin Room, is the second place where I would take people. You have wonderful idlis, which are soft as pillows. On top of that, you have butter. And on this butter, like right beside this butter, you have your typical Tamil Nadu sambar at Sai Ram Tiffin Center. And that's where, after a mild pulav, you have your taste buds activated. So from there, after having that idlis, and you have your pudi masala dosa, and he gets different spinach, different kinds of spinach from Tamil Nadu, and makes you different dosas. That is all seasonal. But you come forward to another place called, another place there for a tomato bath. It's Tamil place again. So you find lot of Andhra and Tamil Nadu breakfast. Tamil Nadu. See, again, I got nervous. I forgot the name of the place there. Where you get your tomato bath.
It'll come to you.
Yeah. And so I've done many walks like around. I've taken even foreigners everywhere, but at this point I forgot. So I'm clearly nervous. I'm sorry about that.
No.
So the next place, so that is about Shivaji Nagar. And there is a place called Babulal. Babulal's Biryani in Veerapillai Street. So Babulal is a Hindu.
But he makes biryani.
But he makes a Muslim style biryani. So it shows how harmoniously, how amazing, how diversified we are, and we adapt to everything, we welcome everything. That is Bangalore for you. And the other area for me is, that is one part, Shivaji Nagar. The other part will be again Baswangudi and Jayanagar belt. So here, so many people, many of you guys will have. There is a huge fight in Bangalore, if you know this or not, I don't know, which is the fight between which masal dosa is better, the CTR masal dosa or Vidyarthi Bhavan masal dosa. I will not tell my views today in front of everyone, but I prefer the South Bangalore. So, Vidyarthi Bhavan, so there is a huge fight, but there are absolutely stunning masala dosas which are very underrated. Even in, so Vidyarthi Bhavan was started in 1943, but there is a place called Mahalakshmi Tiffin Room in Gandhi Bazaar, which was started in 1928. Sometimes when you when you can't enter Vidyarthi Bhavan, please go to Mahalakshmi Tiffin Room for your masala dosa. And again, you have lots of, so when it comes to masala dosa, when I randomly get questions, like which is the best dosa, which is the best dosa, I asked which kind of dosa. You want benne masala dosa, you want tuppa masala dosa. Benne masala dosa is butter masala dosa, tuppa is ghee masala dosa. You want uttappam, you want onion dosa. So so when my first experience in Chennai was, I went to the waiter and asked him for a onion dosa. He brought onions. So he brought dosa and onions. So things like that happened. I understood later in life that it is called an uttappam. I should ask it as an uttappam. So we learn every day, and yeah. So and in our newer Bangalore, the Nagar Kabbanpete, we find tuppa masala dosas and benne. We find a lot of tuppa masala dosas. So that is all local Bangalorean. Again, I say benne masala dosa is again from Udupi, where you add butter. And I don't know if anyone has heard about Kundapura town in the coastal, the Udupi district of Karnataka. There, from there, actually we have our masala dosas coming from, as far as my research says. And then you have, there is a small village called Haladi. And when I went, I used to go on solo trips. Like when I find a weekend away, I used to go on solo trips to Udupi and Bangalore just to see what is this masala dosa everyone is having. Like, I want to know the origin. So I used to travel. I found this place there called Haladi, near Kundapura, some 25 kilometers odd from Haladi. So there in Haladi, we found the best masala dosa ever in a place called Guru Canteen. He adds to, it's just not because of the butter, it's also the taste of the chutney in it, and the chutney which he puts inside is different, the chutney which he gives outside is different. Like here in Bangalore now you find masala dosas where you add first they give you a dosa, they pour the batter, then that liquid becomes semi-solid, then you add your garlic chutney, then the palya made with aloo comes in, and this is what is there. So there is a lot into masala dosa. And the whole Bangalore masala dosa, I call it as Ugram dosa. So for every dosa place, I have a name. For example, there is a place in Shivaji Nagar again. I call him as Attitude Dosa. His name is Naveen Dosai Camp. Like if you go to him, he'll be like, yeah, 10, 15 minutes, come after 15 minutes. If you ask him. Unfortunately, he's passed away. May his soul rest in peace. So, and so we have Heritage Dosa of Vidyarthi Bhavan. And since I'm not a fan of CTR, I used to call it as, to irritate people, troll or whatever you call it as. So I used to call it as a thorny dosa of Bangalore because it is too crisp. Thorny dosa. So, and you get this place in Jayanagar, which is called as Bangalore Cafe. You see this place as, I call this place, this has the crispness, it's as crisp as the CTR dosa and as soft as the Vidyarthi Bhavan dosa. I call it as Ugram dosa because it is showing, the name of the place is Bangalore Cafe, it is showing Ugram dosa. And different areas in Bangalore, for example, it's just not, so for example, many of you will know about Donne Biryani.
Yes.
So Donne Biryani is a term coined only 20 years ago, and the masala for this is again derived. So we hospitable people of Karnataka, since we Bangalore, we allow everyone, and we are so hospitable to them, and we have a base of Maharashtra there. So Donne Biryani, if natives of Bangalore who stay here, and if you go and ask your grandpa, Tata, nange Donne Biryani kodu, he'll be like, what is Donne Biryani? So it was basically a pulao. So it has the base, the green chili, mint and coriander, the mixture of this along with your mutton or chicken has come again from the Maratha base. It was started in Shivaji Military Hotel. That is where he served the pulao in a donne. So that became Donne Biryani. And many things like this. So you can't define Bangalore in one go, from street food to Oberoi. So it's complex. Yeah.
Kunal already answered my follow-up question, which was about the Donne Biryani. So then I'll ask Uday, who is Bangalore's first citizen? And please explain how you found this person.
Okay. This was about 2018. At that time, when I was just about starting to work in the area of Bangalore history through inscriptions. So one fine day, we got a call from somebody in Hebbal. Bangalore is famous for a lot of things, one of which is the traffic jam at Hebbal as well. Close to that, one of the boys there had called and said, "Sir, there is this old looking thing in a roadside ditch. Our people will not help save it. They're going to do, that was the time of election. And they said they're going to fill up that ditch with concrete, and that's the corporator's game plan to show he's done something good there. Our guys are going to not do anything about it. Would you mind come and help save that oldish looking thing?" I was familiar with some of the people there. At that time, I couldn't personally go, but some friends went there, and we kind of managed to convince the locals to extract the stone out from the earth and put it up on a pedestal nearby there. So when we lifted up the stone, at the bottom on the area which was under the ground at that point in time was some writing. And that looked really oldish writing, and they could not even identify the script or this one at that time. So then later on, it was somebody read it, and we figured it's from around 750 AD, which is about 1300 years old. Okay, and it was essentially, and there was a sculpture on top with a man in a fighting scene. He was battling with somebody, and his body was pierced with arrows. Typical Rajkumar style, he was still standing up fighting. Okay, he was dead and gone, but it was a scene depicting his death in battle. So it was, the narration below said, there was an attack on the town of Hebbal, and this man, Kittaya, died defending the town of Hebbal in that attack there. Okay. So at that time, it kind of was, well, the narration I seems sounds pretty ordinary, nothing extraordinary about it. But what we realized there was this is the first evidence of writing in the city of Bangalore. Everybody here who's gathered here is essentially here in this place because they're all educated. Right? Literacy is something which this city is famous for. Or if this is built on literate citizens, it's not built on tourism or religion or textile or food or anything like that. So literate citizens make up this city. And we said, look, it's sitting on a roadside ditch. And it was essentially abandoned and ignored. People were spitting on it, dogs were urinating on it, all of this was happening. And he said, for a city known for literate citizens across the world, we ought to do something better. Right? And then we figured out something else, that since this is the first instance of writing, the person named there is also the first named resident of the city of Bangalore. So rightfully, he should be given the title of the first citizen of Bangalore. Right? So the way I've been speaking about it is that saying if we draw up a voters list of citizens of Bangalore, he would be voter ID 1 in that sense. Right? And our voter ID is that clean. It would be very surprising actually if he did figure in that and in that sense. So this man Kittaya is the first person we know to have lived here, and this is why I call him as the first citizen of the city here.
Pallavi, in your interview in Total Kannada, which I watched on YouTube, you talk about Sugama Sangeetha, and you also referred to it earlier. What are the genres of music for those of us who don't know Bhakti Gita or folk songs of Karnataka? So what is Sugama Sangeetha? What are the themes? Are they love songs? Are they patriotic songs? What are they?
Okay, so there are many different kinds of music in Karnataka. Sugama Sangeetha is one of them. The different kinds of music being, I mean, we know that there's Hindustani and Carnatic, a state where both the musics exist and are thriving. I mean, Purandara Dasa, the Pitamaha of Carnatic music, is a Kannadiga, and we have the Kerega Neeranu Kerege Chali. The first song that is taught in Carnatic music is a Kannada song. If you look at the folk forms, musical forms of Karnataka, there are many, many, many. Like, for example, there is the Gigi Pada, which is about, most of these folk songs are about your daily activities and, sung by both men and women about something that you're doing, and then you sing while you're doing that activity, like many folk forms across the world. So you have the Gigi Pada, you have the Suvi Pada. Then you have something called the Mante Swami Kavya, which is performed by men, and this is the narration and the performance of an epic. It's not a written epic; it's orally performed, it's sung, and the story is told. Then you have Yakshagana, of course, which is very, very native to Karnataka and Kannada. You have the Harikathe form, which is a storytelling form, which is very native to Kannada and Karnataka. And Kundapura and around that belt, Mangalore belt, you have the Bhutad Kolu, which is another fantastic, form of performance. It is both ritualistic and it's a performance. It is kind of, it lies between, somewhere being a ritual and being a performance. Because you have the Bhutad Kolu performance happen all night in people's backyards or front yards. And it's also a puja. It's also a kind of a ritual. So it kind of is a folk form like that. Then you have one of the most amazing, progressive folk forms, which is the Jogati Pada, which is the Yallamanata, where the transgender community sings about Yallamma and the Renuka Devi and her, her questioning of why did you, why to the husband, why did you treat me like this, like that. Then, of course, from the 12th century, we have the Vachanas. We had the Vachana movement in the 12th century, so from there we have the treasure of these Vachanas, which are sung even in like Hindustani classical music recitals and in many different ways. So the singing of Vachana happens in Kannada and in Karnataka. There is also the Dasa Sahitya, like the Bhakti movement. We have all the Dasas, Purandara Dasa, Kanaka Dasa, like Tulsi Das, and from the north. And we have Sugama Sangeetha, which is what I sing. I also sing these other forms, but mainly I'm known for Sugama Sangeetha, which is poetry written by our famous poets, Kuvempu, Bendre, Adiga, K.S. Narasimha Swami, even vachanas like Basavanna, Akkamahadevi. And Sugama Sangeetha was started by a very, very well-known musician singer called P. Kalingrao. And he was a Carnatic classical, trained in Carnatic classical music, but he somehow felt the need to sing something that is not just religious in nature, in its emotive, quality. So he started picking up poems written by poets, by even Hale Kannada poems, the old Kannada poems by Ranna, Jonna, Pampa, and then he started singing those, and slowly he moved on to contemporary poets like G.P. Rajaratnam, Kuvempu, Bendre, and from him this kind of form and genre of Sugama Sangeetha has developed. And what is probably the greatest contribution of Sugama Sangeetha for Karnataka and Kannada is that you go to any village in Karnataka, you go to any big house, small house, any caste, any class, across Karnataka, across the city in Bangalore, anybody who speaks Kannada, if you go to their house and you sing a song, they will say, oh, Shishnal Sharif's poem, or oh, this is a Bendre poem, this is a Kuvempu poem. So the poets and the poetry of Kannada has been popularized and taken from door to door across Karnataka by Sugama Sangeetha.
So she's just returned from Germany where she collaborates with these global singers, and I ask this with hesitation, but can we have the privilege of listening to one line? You can say no because you're a professional musician, but one line with the meaning of, as an example of one of these, or...
Of course, yes. We have, so many poets. I'm just trying to see who I can sing for you. We have the most number of Gnanapitha awards from Kannada.
Yes.
So let me try.
Second, I think, to one other. Hindi, I think, has more, or we have the most.
I think Kannada has the most, I think. So this is a poem that kind of is called Navodaya literature. The modern Kannada poetry movement began with this poem. And Mysore Ananthaswamy, who lived in Bangalore, composed this. And this is a very famous poem. And it is actually a translation of a Zam, which is called Lead Kindly Light. So this in Kannada is very, very popular. Just a few lines for you. ಕರುಣಾಳು ಬಾ ಬೆಳಕೆ ಮುಸುಕಿದೆ ಮಬ್ಬಿನಲಿ ಕೈ ಹಿಡಿದು ನಡೆಸೆನ್ನನು ಕರುಣಾಳು ಬಾ ಬೆಳಕೆ ಮುಸುಕಿದೆ ಮಬ್ಬಿನಲಿ ಕೈ ಹಿಡಿದು ನಡೆಸೆನ್ನನು ಇರುಳು ಕತ್ತಲೆಯಾಗವಿ ಮನೆದೂರ ಕನಿಕರಿಸಿ ಇರುಳು ಕತ್ತಲೆಯಾಗವಿ ಮನೆದೂರ ಕನಿಕರಿಸಿ ಕೈ ಹಿಡಿದು ನಡೆಸೆನ್ನನು ಕರುಣಾಳು ಬಾ ಬೆಳಕೆ ಮುಸುಕಿದೆ ಮಬ್ಬಿನಲಿ ಕೈ ಹಿಡಿದು ನಡೆಸೆನ್ನನು.
Thank you. Yeah, from Sugama Sangeetha to Roman coins, which they will tell us about. That was a fantastic story that you told me about the discovery of Roman coins in Bangalore. Can you tell the audience?
Oh, yeah. Again, going back to the modern concept of Bangalore as the place where the world is coming to get work done, right? Again, people don't associate Bangalore with a tourist destination of, let's say, 2,000 years ago.
Yeah.
Right? It was. Not so far away from here. We could probably walk to the old HAL airport. There, when they were working on the runway in the mid-60s, they discovered Roman coins there. They did not discover just one, they discovered about 300 Roman coins. And these were from the period 60 BC to 30 AD, in Augustus and Julius Caesar time frames. It didn't happen by accident. I mean, it wasn't that somebody was walking by and they dropped a few coins and went away. Not something as accidental as that. Roman coins have been found in 3 other distant locations in the city of Bangalore. One was when they were building the Yeshwanthpur railway station. There again, they found a hoard of Roman coins, similar period. Roman coins have also been found just across the road when they were working here on the Agaram grounds that we see here now used to be the old race course. They discovered Roman coins there as well, which means that foreigners or people from elsewhere in the world are not coming now to Bangalore. These people are only following a tradition that goes back 2,000 years. So we are not an international city today. We have been an international city for at least 2,000 years ago. And that's the story of Bangalore that I would like newcomers to Bangalore to narrate to the people who come here now.
Yeah, so that means the Romans were here for trade, you think, or?
Yeah, obviously. The Roman coins have been found in lots of places in South India. Bangalore is one of
Being
the
one of
places
them, yeah.
as well. They would have been carrying the coins either as currency, because gold has been currency for thing. Augustus Caesar's coin wouldn't have had any other value. And obviously, they had kept it safely somewhere so that it was safe and secure. They may have been here for trade. They may have been passing by here. They may not have been doing whatever. We don't know. But the fact that we have hordes of coins, not just one or two,
Yeah.
indicates that this was a destination. There's more than that, actually. There is in Rajgata, which is in the outskirts of Bangalore, there is also a monument which has a very Greek-Roman character to it. There's a 4th century thing. So which means there has been a continuity of interaction in the region with people elsewhere in the world. Yeah.
Kunal, I want to ask you about two things. One is you are a food expert, and you showcase it very well in your Instagram reels and everything. Tell us a little bit about how you showcase the food of Bangalore, and how you think through an Instagram post of yours, and because you compress a lot of information into. So how do you do that?
So this, I don't know. I first of all, I'm a foodie. I love food, so I used to explore with whatever money I had, and so even when I was a student, I studied in boarding school, so food is my priority. So I used to study a lot. So at one point of time, I started writing. I used to maintain a journal, not to write daily activities, but I used to write about it. Like I learn about things. So then came, I saved up from my first job, whatever I got. Like I was, when I was in college, I was also teaching kids. So with that money, I made a website, and the website was there until now, like before COVID. So once TikTok was banned, people are at home and they are bored, and they are bored with even many. I don't know, the number of people who are reading has come down.
Yes.
That is something which is very disturbing for me. So I used to write down blogs. So, and since TikTok stopped, Instagram started a concept called as a reel. And everybody used to post reels, like random things on the reels and with some music. And I was like, there is no meaning to it. Like there is some food and you are comprising this, and I was not a fan of it. But before that, we used to only take pictures back then. We used to only take pictures and document it. And for documentation, we used Instagram. Instead of our own ledgers, we used Instagram. That was our passion. That is how Ghatotkacha started. And so what happened now is, later I stopped, so the number of views started coming down a lot in my blog, which was known as Aromas of Biryani by Ghatotkacha. So it started coming down, and so I started making videos. But I did not want people to just look into a video, and nowadays you see text and everything on the video. The editing has taken a huge leap forward. But back then, there was nothing. It was only music. So I came up with this concept. Before Reels came in, I had done a video, like just a small video. It was there in my stock during lockdown. The video was in Veena Stores. Veena Stores is in Malleshwaram, which is famous for the Redleys and Shavigebath. So I missed that. I saw the video and I missed this. It came out from my heart. So ಈ ಅಂಕಲ್ ಹತ್ರ ಹೋಗಿ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಚಟ್ನಿ ಹಾಕಿ ಅಂತ ಕೇಳೋದು ಎಷ್ಟು ದಿನ ಆಯಿತು ಕಣ್ರಿ, ಯಾವಾಗ ಹೋಗ್ತೀವೋ ಮತ್ತೆ. ದಟ್ ಮೀನ್ಸ್ it's been so long that I want to go to this uncle back and ask him, give me more chutney for the idli. So that came out from my heart during lockdown. But later Reels Reels grew massive. So I stopped my blog. I started making reels, and I started this concept of Kannada voiceovers. And within 30 seconds, whatever I had to write for around, like if I had to write a blog or an article, I had to write for like 3 or 4 days because of job and everything. 3-4 days I had to sit on that one dish I had to explain. And the Chef Pillai's restaurant, I had written about him for a month. So now I had to explain everything in 30 seconds. This is good, so I thought I'll do only dish-wise, but no one liked it. Everyone wants precise information. So I comprise everything within 30 seconds. So again, Instagram algorithm is very different. If you have more than 60 seconds, your video doesn't do well. So if you want everything to be fine, so you have to make your audience. So for example, everyone here watches YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels. If you don't like the reel, what do? You scroll it up. That's all. Simple. It's simple for everyone. You just scroll it up. So therefore, what we have to do is we have to catch the audience pulse. Within the first 3 seconds, we have to catch the audience pulse. So I have to talk about an offer, I have to talk about an interesting shot, I have to make it interesting. So within 30 seconds, I have to comprise everything, and this is what we are doing.
It's amazing. As somebody who's a writer and who now knows that a lot of people all our attention spans have come down, I watch your reels and I think, my God, you've compressed so much information. I mean, not so much information. I think it's choosing the information, and you just said based on clickbait or capturing the audience. Yeah, that's really how it is. So the final round is about a topic close to our hearts. Pallavi, in my book, I have a chapter on why all of us in Bangalore ought to learn Kannada. And I have given my own reason for it, which is I say that it opens Karnataka in a way that is not possible without knowing the language. As an actress and a musician, can you talk about what people are missing out, again from the point of view of lyrics and understanding, what people who don't understand Kannada are missing out on? What will knowing Kannada open up in the world of arts for them? Like plays, for example, Kannada plays, just a few things that...
Well, I think it would benefit anybody to learn the language, of the land that they are in. Not just for the ease of communication or just to be able to, communicate with everybody in a better way, but also there's a word in Kannada which is called atmiyate, I don't know if there's a translation. I mean, this is it'll be lost in translation if I try to. But a sense of, welcome that you get when you actually speak or even try to understand what is, the local language is very different.
Yes.
And there are things which are expressed in the local language. There are certain exchanges that happen in the local language which probably do not happen in, say, English or Hindi or any other language. I'll give you the converse of it. Like when I recently traveled to Germany, I was there. I don't know German. I know a little bit of German, good enough to maybe order something at a restaurant or like just sprinkle a little bit of my conversation with German. So when I'm talking to the audience and like I talk to them in English, and if somebody responds and I look at them and I say genau, then they suddenly be like, yes, you got that, right? And they suddenly think I understand them, I understand their language. There is a sense of openness that happens when you even try to understand what the language and the music of the language and the nature of the languages. And in Kannada, there are so many such exchanges that happen between me and the auto driver, me and, when I read the Kannada newspaper, when I'm talking to a Kannada artist, everything that we exchange in Kannada, a lot of it cannot be done in English. Yes. There is a certain sense of a different kind of framing that happens when it's English, a different music that is there for English, which is not there in Kannada. Yeah. So it's a very different life altogether when you're completely devoid of this, Kannada layer. I'm saying Kannada because it's Karnataka.
Yes.
And also, it's if you go to Shivaji Nagar, you can also live very happily with Tamil. Or if you go somewhere, you can also, the thing is in Bangalore, if you know only Malayalam, you can live. I know my English professor who taught me English, knew only Malayalam and English, and she was perfectly okay in Bangalore. I know people who speak only Telugu, I know people who speak only Bengali, or only Hindi, or like
And they're fine.
everywhere in Bangalore you can find that pocket of people. But I also think that there is a huge population and a lot of work that happens in Kannada, which you will be missing out if you don't learn it.
Uday has a reason for why this mix-up of languages has happened, and you told me that, yeah.
Yeah. So, you also mentioned this earlier, how do you describe Bangalore? And that's what I would use as well. And borrowed this term from Sugata Srinivasan, who's written about that. It says the rooted cosmopolitan. Okay, Bangaloreans are very, very rooted and they're cosmopolitan, which is what everybody here has been speaking about. The varieties of food that he talks about are not native Bangalorean, but they're Bangalorean. The varieties of music she's talking about, the language she's speaking about, all of that. So this is essentially also because it's rooted in history as well. A lot of people are very surprised to see writings in Tamil here, which go back 1,000 years. Writing in Telugu, writing in Kannada. And most native Bangaloreans have a very difficult time if you ask them this question, what's your mother tongue? It's very hard to say that because at home you speak 3-4 languages. You could be speaking in a language with your mother, with your father, with your aunts, with your uncles, with your neighbors, all of them. So fundamentally, if you say, name a particular language, you would probably be offending somebody. So depending on who's asking the question, you probably give a different answer to suit that. And that's where, the nature of the city, the fabric of the city itself is. It's very welcoming. You don't have to know you don't have to know a particular language to fit in well here, live well here. You don't have to be it applies to religion, it applies to language, it applies to everything else you can think about here. So I would explain that in that fashion, that Bangalore is cosmopolitan today.
Yes.
And it's the welcoming nature of the Bangaloreans that everyone's talking about is
Yes.
rooted back in history.
Yes.
Because fundamentally here we speak multiple languages.
Yeah.
Okay, and the culture itself is essentially a mixed culture.
Yeah.
It's not uniquely to say, look, this is, we don't do this thing here. If you're from Tamil Nadu, we follow Tamil Pongal here, we do our own Sankrantis here, we do our own stuff
Yes.
here. Everything is celebrated twice, thrice here.
Yes.
So everybody feels at home, and that's probably what is the very fundamental nature of Bangalore itself. And that's the cosmopolitan.
Yeah.
The reason for the cosmopolitan nature of the city is its heritage, which goes back 1,000 years, at least 1,000 years in that sense.
So we told us we'll end at 7:40 before taking questions, but I want to do one last, now the rapid fire round is a cliche, but it's also so I'm going to ask you for favorite poet, favorite playwright. I have to figure out what to ask Uday, but for you, of course, I'm going to put you on the spot and say top 5 places to eat in Bangalore, and while I figure out. So favorite poet and favorite playwright, 2 or 3, doesn't have to be one, that people should know about.
That's not fair at all. I mean, 7 Jnanapitas, come on.
Yeah.
And hundreds of poets and playwrights. Playwright, let me say Girish Karnad, because he's really, truly international and extremely local, like a Bangalore person. Poet, very difficult. Maybe Akka Mahadevi, Bendre, Adiga. Gopalakrishna Adiga.
Yeah. Bendre, I've written about it in the book because there is a website which translates his poems into English.
Yeah.
Akka Mahadevi is harder, and
A.K. Ramanujam has done a lot of his translations. Her translations, yeah.
Okay, and Gopalakrishna Adiga. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
I must tell you one story about Bendre, which I have heard from Jayant Kaikini.
Yes.
Which is, he was such a progressive person that once they said, you have to come with, the family said, you have to come. We have to go to this other house, and our son, we're going to look for the bride, we're going to see. And he said, I don't like this custom of going and seeing this girl and then testing her and, what is this? I don't like it. They said, well, this is how marriages happen and you have to come. We have to get him married. So he said, okay. And he was very reluctant to go. And they went. And in the girl's house, they were very okay with it. So they said, she can sing also. Please sing a song. They asked the girl to sing. And she sang. And Bendre was very, very, upset about it. And he said, my son can also sing. You sing one song and show. So he made his son also sing. And then they got married, of course, and this story is narrated by his daughter-in-law, saying my father-in-law was so progressive, and this is how he kind of, this is how my meeting happened.
So we attended a wedding, a family wedding, and along similar lines, the bridegroom told the pujari, he said, "You're making the bride fall at my feet. Every time you ask her to do that, I'm going to fall at her feet." So this is again to go to the whole equality of relationships thing. I still have to figure out what to ask you, but you top 5 places to eat.
Okay, so let me be for idlis, Sri Idli Corner.
Okay.
For masala dosa, which I prefer ghee masala dosa, that will be SK Tiffin Room in Chickpete. And for if you want to eat some steaks and other stuff, there is a place called Salvador's, which my wife should. So that place, and for your nati food, I would say order from a home kitchen. It's a home kitchen called Carnivore Kitchen. So he sources his mutton or whatever, his meats from I can't tell you how amazing the quality is. It's a Bannur Kuri, the Bannur sheep. So the prices are high, but it's worth every penny. It's from Carnivore Kitchen, and that is your nati food. And it's your choice. You tell me any cuisine, I will tell you.
Tell you the place that they can, yeah. Audience can. Yeah. So for you, historically, which are the 2 or 3 interesting places in Bangalore for people to go to? And they can do the research, of course, through the Mystic Society. But like Hebala is one place. Which are some places? If people came to you and said, "Send me to some, these great places of Bangalore," where would you send them?
Yeah, the first one is the place we went to, the Begur Panchalingeshwara temple. Very simply because it's a 1100-year-old temple. It's a living temple, extraordinary, beautiful architecture, pristine condition as it was 1100 years ago. And the way I would like to put it is that it's the only such a temple in a global capital like Bangalore. Only Bangalore can boast of. You can't do that. You can't have that experience anywhere else in the world, where you can see a 1100-year-old temple in a city such as Bangalore. One. And there's a zillion things to study there and learn there, right from the Panchatantra to battles and to religion, to music, to dance, to anything you want, you could probably experience it there. That's one. Second is walking distance from here. There's an extraordinary temple called the inside Enale Belur campus. That's the this is called Kodiyalli on this side. Across the road on the other side is Enale Belur campus. There is a temple inside there, which is from around 1200 AD. It was a completely ruined temple which has been put together again in pristine condition. It's open only on Mondays. So it's a place very little known to any Bangalorean in that sense. It's open on Monday mornings. Anyone in a public is allowed to go in there. It's a tight defense campus, but you will find extraordinary heritage there. So the contrast new Bangalore to old Bangalore stares you in the face when you go there. 1100-year-old Hoysala Chola kind of architecture temple sitting in probably one of the top scientific establishments in the country. Two things I would suggest you do.
And Lal Bagh Rock, everybody says, is one of the oldest.
That's the third thing as well. And that's probably why I lost it. I forgot to mention it to you as well. When people think about history, we think about normally, temples and forts and palaces and all of those kind of things. From a natural history perspective, the oldest thing on earth that you can touch is the Lal Bagh Rock. When we walk on sand, when we walk on whatever we're walking on, something which is very old, right? But Lal Bagh Rock itself is about 300 crore years old, and it's in its original state from almost the time when the earth was formed. There's only 2 other places in the world where you can touch something similar or a little older. You'd have to go to Australia, you have to go to Canada. But in Bangalore, when we do that, we can just go over there, touch it, and feel it, and say, look, I'm touching the oldest thing on earth. By the way, it's the same material we use to build our homes and roads and all of that. So you could as well touch the foundation stone in your house and you would be doing the same too. But if you want that exotic feeling, do go to Lalbagh.
So, with that, I'll close the panel discussion. And if anybody has questions, I think BIC likes it if you come here, because this will be streamed on YouTube and you'll be visible if you come here. Otherwise, we can bring a mic to you, of course. But while I wait for them, so in Australia and Canada, you said?
That's right.
Okay.
And neither one of them are in cities like this. You have to go really into the wilderness
Into
to do
the
that.
wilderness. Yeah.
Thank you all. It was very interesting and nice. My question is to the author. Apart from the very important topics of food, history, and music, have you covered the essence of scientific temperament of this city, or is there any chapter on that? Because it's known for PSUs, it's known for IT industry. Worldwide, it is known like that. Have you covered?
So it's a very difficult question. You bring up a series of areas which I have not covered, which includes scientific thing, and that is a real flaw. The other is being single in Bangalore city, I have not covered. There's a whole big gaming AI Comic-Con section that is superbly part of Bangalore, which I have not covered. But science is a big loss, so I think you should write a book on science in Bangalore.
I wish to. My next question is to MD Pallavi. See, we have seen and enjoyed the era of Kaling Rao, Anand Swami, and Ashwath. But now there seems to be a vacuum, there is no. And many of the youngsters seems to be migrating from Bhavagita, Sugama Sangeetha to fusion. So is it a good idea, or should we stick back to that and promote that, because nothing much is happening on that?
Oh, thank you. So the thing is that, there are two sides, two parts to my answer. One is that the great composers of the yesteryear, one is, P. Kaling Rao, then Mysore Ananthaswamy, C. Ashwath, Gartigeri Raganna, Vasant Kanakapur, all these are great composers of Sugama Sangeetha. All of them have passed away. So there are no new compositions. And for a new composer to be established in the way that they have been established, it's more difficult in today's time of, multiple screens, multiple, gadgets, and the second part of my answer, I'll segue into that. The thing is that today people don't listen to music in the same way that they used to listen earlier. Earlier, you would buy music physically. You would have a cassette or a CD or a MP3, whatever it was, you would have it in your hand. And then you would play it in your house and you would listen to a curation of songs, an album, right? From the beginning to the end, the artist actually curates an experience for you. What should the first song be? What should the second track be? What should the third track be? But now, we have no control of how you're listening to music. You can just pick up a song from the middle of the album and you can listen to it on YouTube. Or you can be playing it on your phone and just listening to it like this, which is a horrible way of listening to music. You can be playing it in your car, or you can just be, streaming it and playing it on your laptop speaker, which depends on the kind of laptop you have. So there is, if I may say, artists are trying really hard, even today, to kind of, compose new music, take new poetry, and further the field of Sugama Sangeetha. But the platforms have changed so drastically. The way that people listen to music and experience music has changed so drastically that it will take some time for something to settle in.
Yeah. Thank you. Which is, I think, what Kunal is doing in a different field. We're going from food writing to food, and music is so deep and so pristine that that transition will take time. Is what.
Yeah, I mean, if I may add one more thing, in Europe, right now, for the last 2-3 years, the most number of sales that has happened in music is vinyl records. People have gone back to that they want to actually own the music, keep it in their house, and look at it and hold it and play it.
Yeah.
It should not be endless number of possibilities. It should be a limited number of songs that they can enjoy and know that these are the songs. So hopefully we will go back to that at some point.
I think there are 3 questions. So whoever gets asked the question, we will try to.
I have a small suggestion. It would be nice if people who ask questions could introduce themselves.
That too.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. I'm Beena. Thank you so much for that very, very interesting conversation. I like the fact that you had 3 people here who spoke on different aspects of Bangalore. My question was for the historian here. We went to Kerala and we met a historian in Kerala who talked about these Roman coins and said that the Romans brought in a lot of these gold coins because what they were importing against that was black pepper. And black pepper was literally what they called black gold then, because black pepper was used to preserve their meats back home. And so do you think that there was anything to do with, Bangalore? Did Bangalore have black pepper at that time? What was the situation? Can you shed some light on that?
Honest answer, I don't know. Anything I would be saying would be conjecture. Well, what they were doing here, I'm not so sure at all. It's quite possible they were just sightseeing.
Really?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So maybe, I think what Udaya is saying is that we don't know what Bangalore traded with the world.
I didn't mean that. What I said is gold coins have been found lots of places in the country, not just in Bangalore. They would have been here for lots of reasons. There's been a lot of influence in literature, in the arts, on a lot of that. So what I meant when I said sightseeing could be a genuine answer as well. It could also be trade. Obviously, the spices were a big, this one for that region for a long time as well. Also, they could have been bringing horses from the Middle East. They may have been coming from somewhere else. They could have been doing all of that as well. So somewhere somebody in Kerala could stand up and say, yeah, no, they came here for the spices. I can't do that for Bangalore.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. Kalpana.
Hi, my name is Kalpana Mohan. Man, this is too tall for me.
She's an author too, visiting from California.
Yeah, we go back a long way. So the question was, what sort of courage do you need to have to write about a place where you haven't belonged for a long time?
Yeah.
Did you feel some sort of fear about writing, or getting into this project?
Yeah, I grew up in Chennai. I love Chennai. And people there think I have what we say in Tamil, Kachi Marriage, which means I've crossed the border. Said, when are you writing a Namma Chennai book? But I think writing about Chennai would be very hard because I don't have the insider-outsider perspective that I think I have in Bangalore. In Bangalore, I still have wonder. I still see things that I don't understand. I still see things that I have to research, I have to look into. I learned a lot today just from talking to these people who I consider, I follow them, so I know their work. But I had not heard about Adiga, so I have to go back and look him up. And so clearly there's that conversation about music that happened. There is a whole ecosystem that I don't know about. So in Chennai, I know. So you take it for granted, I think. I know a lot about the city once you grow up there. So it didn't take courage as much as a worry that I won't get it right. And this book is actually the lowest it's a survey book. It's a very easy read. It's not, my earlier books were memoirs which tackled one topic, like the cows of Bangalore. Or this book is much more user-friendly, I would call. It's a book that you can give to people because it's all essays of chapters. It's a survey book and it's a user-friendly book. So in that sense, the worry I had was that, am I doing justice to the writing? But you'll have to read it to give an answer to that. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Harsh, I'm a historian. Thank you for the discussion. One of my questions was anticipated in your discussion of how a city is experienced differently on the basis of language, particularly given how polyglot Bangalore is. But I'm curious, given that this panel is equally divided, particularly in the writing of this book, is or was the city experienced differently on the basis of gender, and how did you experience it writing it as a woman, particularly in the context of you mentioning Dalrymple and Mehta? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So Gendered Bangalore exists, and I haven't touched upon it. I think my age helped. I think going with friends, Kunal and I spent several hours one night in Bangalore. So I took in a way, a shortcut. I think that I have not ventured to places. How shall I say? So as a feminist, this is not a book on gender. This is, and I'm not, beyond, for example, after writing this book, I have talked about urban mobility in Bangalore and how women are finding it very difficult in spite of the Shakti scheme. The Shakti scheme, by the way, gives free, women can ride free on buses. But an NGO that I'm involved with even says, in spite of this free movement ostensibly within the city, getting from the bus stop to home is very difficult if you're a woman, and if you're a working woman, especially if you belong to the underprivileged parts. So I have, again, I've not touched upon gender. I've not used gender as a lens to write this book. I think I've written this book from the point of, through the looking glass, Alice in Wonderland, here I am in a new place, rose-tinted glasses approach. But yeah, that Chup is a book written by Deepa Narayan, which to my mind is one of the best books about gender in India. It's the author is Deepa Narayan, and the book is called Chup. And I think if you want to learn about gender and how an Indian woman experiences gender in India, it's a great book. So I haven't answered your question because I haven't used that lens.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you all for your discussion, because it was, I'm just 24, and for me, this is all like really nice to hear about Bangalore, because I've only been living here for like 7 years. I had a question regarding, how did you start researching about Bangalore? Because I just got to know that you weren't from here, you came here. So how did you start researching about this? And the second question I have is, in this world of globalization, what happens is, I think now there's hyper-globalization. So for somebody to preserve their own culture is a little difficult, because you're trying to adapt to what's going on, you're trying to adapt to the trend, but at the same time, you're also trying to adapt to what was your heritage. So what recommendation do you have there?
So this book started as a series of essays for a column I wrote for a few years, and then it coalesced into a book. So the topics were based on my interest, and as the gentleman who asked about the science question asked, there are entire areas about Bangalore that I don't touch. How the book coalesced was after 3 years of writing this, I thought there's a book here that can be. Then you think about patterns and you try to put it all together according to fields. That's what I did. The harder part was, as a journalist, you're writing for time. You're writing about urgency. You're writing about events that happen in the now. Whereas in a book, you have to eject all those chapters which don't have, I won't say eternal or timelessness, but a book's timeline is very different from an article's timeline. So rewriting certain articles to choose for a longer time frame, that was the hard part about putting together the book. And then after putting together the chapters, I realized that, I'm part of the birding community here, and nature is a big part, and some of my friends are visiting. So then you realize that how your interests, and I would say that I spend more time in nature now than in food, but nature is harder for me to write about. So some of it is also skill. Food writing comes a little bit easier to me. So you'll see a large section on food and less of section on nature. So that's also, so some of your vulnerabilities as a writer come out because you choose certain of the topics that sort of read nicely. Heritage is a big part of Bangalore. We have Heritage Beku, we have a lot of historians. You can't write about Bangalore without mentioning it, but there are a lot of very good books on heritage in Bangalore, and I list some of them out in the end. I think writing a book is a good way to know the city, and that's the approach I took.
Thank you. Just that the second question I had was about how do we try to preserve our own culture, because I come from the Konkani Christian community in Bangalore, and a lot of our culture is evading, because the youngsters are not really taking it upon themselves to preserve the culture and to understand a lot more about what happened, how do we get there, all of that. So how do you think, somebody who is young, who wants to preserve the community should do that?
So I have a lot of angst about culture and traditions being lost. My elder daughter went to Carnegie Mellon to school, and there one of the first international orientation lectures gave me a lot of hope, because they said culture is like an iceberg. You may think only the tip is visible, but there's a lot underneath that you can't say so explicitly, but it's there. So I would say preservation of culture happens in a conscious way, but don't worry, a lot of small things are happening and culture is morphing. So I used to be pessimistic about culture, especially as somebody, I'm not wearing a sari today for a variety of reasons, but as somebody who loves saris, I was like, oh God, saris are dying. But I find I have switched from being a pessimist about culture to being an optimist. I think Konkani Christian culture will survive you or me or any. I would say don't worry. It's just morphs a little bit. That's anybody, any other take on this? Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. And I think one, yeah, Advaita. Yes. Oh, it's time, she's saying. Is that what you're saying? Yeah. It's time. Okay. No.
Hi, and thank you for, sorry, I didn't expect the light. Thank you for this, for writing this book and for organizing this, and to all the panelists. You have a lovely voice. My question is to you and Uday, because I saw one of the chapters you have on why is the billing system, why is the billing system so bad, is one of the things that you wrote. I wanted to know why you chose to write about that. And to Uday, my question is, Bangalore also has this history of I'm a medical anthropologist, so to me, Bangalore is all about healthcare, and it has a long history of that, especially with brain care and NIMHANS. So I wanted to know if you could share some things about that and how you see Bangalore if you just take the healthcare perspective. Yeah, thanks.
You want to go first or shall I go? So I didn't want to include that chapter actually, because to me it felt like it didn't fit in anything. So this is a good point you bring up, because sometimes what a reader sees is different. So my editor insisted on it. He said Bangalore, for good or bad, is known for some of the better hospitals in India. The healthcare is supposed to be good, and you've written a chapter which is not going to offend anybody because you've written a personal perspective. I write about going to a hospital and all the troubles that I have had, which in his mind was a good way to write about and also criticize the so to point out the healthcare in Bangalore and also criticize it. So he insisted on it, and surprisingly for me, I got a lot of letters for that particular article. I thought it was just, it's a rant. It's kind of but it clearly rung a bell, either because it was written from a point of view of empathy and from a personal point of view. So as a medical anthropologist, you picked out that chapter of all else. So that's why it was. So that was an editorial eye that chose it. I mean, there were a lot of chapters that I ejected. I was going to eject that one, but my editor convinced me otherwise.
Yeah. Mind repeating the question again? I missed, especially with, you said something, I couldn't get that.
Yeah, I wanted to know, because you guys you can look at Bangalore through many things, objects,
right,
people, time. I wanted to know if you can look at Bangalore through healthcare as well, and what would that look like, if you have something to share.
So,
two views on that. One is, the recent history that you're talking about, which is not what something I specialize in very much, but the localities of Malleshwaram and Chamarajpet, both were designed because of reasons of disease. The plague, when it hit Bangalore in the 1900s, essentially the plague was because of the rats and the garbage and all of that. So they designed Malleshwaram and the Chamarajpet localities in the more modern way of straight roads with conservancy lanes to take away the garbage and all of that, and distance from the city itself. So the two places, if you look at, by instance, they should remind you of hospitals or disease by name one. The other way of thinking about it is essentially, if I go back to the pre-16th century, which is what I specialize in, the concept of hospitals and temples are the same. Fundamentally, temples served as hospitals. And most temples that have the name Vaidishwaran, Vaidya is essentially doctor or physician in Sanskrit. So Vaidishwaran is the god that goes there. So you find a lot of these temples all over the city. Ishvara temples, some of them carry the Vaidishwara, this one as well. And temples were also the places where practicing not just religion but medicine, the Ayurvedic version of medicine in the Indian thing. So we have lots of temples that are ancient. So I would presume it was a pretty healthy environment that Bangalore was in, just for that one simple reason. People did not have to walk many kilometers away. Because like I mentioned, a few temples always all around here. So these 500 plus year old temples, there's about 20, 30 of them spread over the city of Bangalore today. Each one you can double as an hospital too, though that is not the way we think about it today.
So the BIC doesn't do a vote of thanks, so I want to thank you all for coming, and I want to thank my panelists for giving us this really wonderful discussion. And